Hello, I am Helen Sadler. I am your destiny helper, here to bring out the best of you for the all of you in a time like this. I want to come to you and talk to you about a woman that is very familiar in the book of Esther. Her name is Vashti. We know little about Vashti. We just know that she refused the king. But Vashti has a tremendous background, which gives way to why she probably refused the king. And let us know a little bit about Vashti. Vashti was the queen in Persia. She was the queen before Esther. And the king called her. She refused the king. The Bible said that during this time she was having a banquet with the women. When you study Persian law, that when the king is having a banquet, the women oftentimes will have a separate banquet because they will have orgies and different things over, and the queen will be far from it. But the queen had to make herself available so when the king called, she would come. Vashti had an amazing history because she was the granddaughter of Nebuchadnezzar. We know Nebuchadnezzar by the book of Daniel because Daniel served under Nebuchadnezzar. He was one of the eunuchs in the palace, one of the prime ministers that Nebuchadnezzar trusts tremendously. He helped interpret a dream that Nebuchadnezzar forgot. And it took Daniel to pray. And he let Nebuchadnezzar know that God was the revealer of secrets. And God revealed the dream to Daniel, which caused everybody else to be pretty much spared. Well, Vashti was the granddaughter of Nebuchadnezzar. And Vashti was a queen in Babylon. And what happened was, during the time that Medes and the Persia attacked Babylon, what happened was they was drinking from the sacred goblets that they taken out of the temple, and they was making mockery of the God of Israel. Now Babylon had walls, very thick walls, and they used to raise chariots on these walls. They was known for their walls because it was hard to penetrate those walls, and many people that came up against them lost to Babylon. Babylon was the sovereign rule at that time. It was the major monarch of this time, and it was known to defeat every nation that they've come against. Well, during this time, Nebuchadnezzar, grandson Belteshazzar, was in rule, and there's a struggle between whether it was the son or the grandson. And so he was in rule, but his name was Belteshazzar. And these handwriting came on the wall. They called Daniel out of retirement to come and interpret what was on that wall. And he was letting him know that the kingdom was getting ready to be taken away from them. Well, during this time, the Medes was planning to attack Babylon. They've already started to build a tunnel beneath the walls because they knew they couldn't get through the walls. That's how fierce they were. And they were great protection for the Chaldeans. But they crawled under the wall and they got in. They killed Belteshazzar. They cut his body into pieces. They killed the father. They killed the son. They killed every person that was there of the royal family. They killed all of them except Vashti. Vashti historically was recognized as a beautiful woman. They said she was just fabulously gorgeous and flawless. So if she was that gorgeous, can you imagine what Esther must have looked like? Because Esther was beautiful. Well, so was Vashti. And the king had it a hot for beautiful women. So King Darius, which attacked them, took Vashti, took her away from her family, killed her husband. If she had any children, killed her children, whether it was through surrogacy or through her own. They killed it. It was just like a lion. When a lion goes into a female pride, what happens is the male lion will kill all of the cubs because it will set that lioness in heat. But if he keep those cubs, he did not want rule of another person's cub. And the lioness would give her attention to the cubs instead of to the lion, the male lion. And so they will kill the cubs. So to prevent the cubs from being killed, the female lions will mate with the lion, and then he will be more tolerant of her cubs as he produced his own. Well, here Vashti was taken out of Babylon, taken over to Persia. Now she's taken over to Persia by Darius. Darius give her to King Xerxes in history, but we know him as King Ahasuerus in the book of Esther. And the King Ahasuerus take her to wife. Now this woman is bitter. You killed her parents, killed her brother, you killed her husband, you killed her kingdom, you killed her culture, you killed everything she knew, she killed everything she grew up with. So she was bitter, she was angry, she had murder on her mind. And so during this time, Vashti took and built relationship with some of the workers for the king in the palace. And there was two gentlemen that devised the assassination of King Xerxes. And Mordecai, who was an interrupter or interceptor of this plot, this plan, and probably because Esther, once Vashti refused to come to the king. She refused because she was wicked. She refused because she was evil. She refused because she was angry. She refused because she was bitter. She refused because she wanted to kill him. And here King Darius gives her to King Xerxes. And King Xerxes sleep with a woman who hates him. She sleep with a woman who don't want to be with him. She in love with another man, but here she is with his king. So no matter how handsome he is, no matter how fabulous and fine he is, she can't see that for the bitterness, for the angry. She was angry that everything she knew was gone by the choice of a king. Now, Vashti was a queen. She was the king's daughter. She knew how it was when a hostile takeover, because that's what Nebuchadnezzar did. That's what Nebuchadnezzar did to grow his kingdom. That's what her father did to grow his kingdom. And that's what her brother did to extend his kingdom. They took over hostile forces, took over other nations, and combine those nations to get credit as the kingdom of Babylon. So now that it's happening to Babylon, she's angry, she's bitter. And so she's with King Xerxes every day, plotting and building in her heart. And so she built this relationship with these two men, and they are plotting the assassination of King Xerxes. But King Xerxes, during this time, he allowed, now Mordecai, listen to this, Mordecai told King Xerxes that these men was planning to kill him. Now, he had to be in the palace before Esther because he got the plot. And the plot was with Vashti. It wasn't after Vashti. It was during the rule of Vashti. So Mordecai had to have a place of prominence. He had to have a place where he could be accessible to hear this information from the king. And so he had a place of prominence in the palace before Esther even got there. Mordecai was already there. So Mordecai told that the king, that they was planning to plot to kill the king. All right? And let me go back, because what happens is Mordecai told Esther, so let's correct some things. Mordecai told Esther that they was plotting to kill the king, and Esther told the king. So what happened is they was angry because the king overthrew Vashti. There you go, getting it historically correct. They overthrew Vashti. Vashti refused to come to the king. She had a banquet. The king will have a banquet, and the queen will have a banquet. And the reason the queen had a banquet, because all of the wives will go with the queen, because the king will have orgies and different women there besides their queen, and they will have their banquet. So all the queens will get the queen will get all the women, and they will go and have their banquet. However, the king will always rule. The king will always dominate. His word will always have the final say and the ultimate authority. So Vashti is having herself a ball. But notice the Bible says in Esther that Vashti was having her party or her banquet in the king's house that belonged to King Xerxes. It did not give her the credit for it. He did not release that house to her. She did not own anything. He took everything out of her hands because she was so wicked that if he gave power to her, he knew that she would probably overthrow. Have you ever seen somebody, they hate you so bad, you could see it in their eyes? And I'm sure he would see it in her eyes. Just the hatred, the sheer hatred of what he did to her family. So the king wanted to show off her beauty because she was one of the most beautiful women in Persia, and she was the queen, and she belonged to King Xerxes. He calls her Vashti refused. Many people say that she refused because the king was drunk and the king did not want to show up. Well, Vashti was drinking too. They was having a party and they was having a banquet. At banquet, they served alcohol. And so she was probably pretty lit too. But you got to remember, this is a Babylonian queen that is now the queen of Persia. And she's involuntarily set in the seat of the queen. So she's going to make his life a living hell. And she's going to make his life as miserable as she possibly can. So she refused him. She wanted to bring him to ultimate shame because she refused him in a house full of prominent women that was married to prominent men, and she refused him as if she had some authority. And when she did that, they brought word back to the king, and they said, King, you're going to have to do something, because if you let her go, she's going to start a women's movement, and we can't have a women's movement and all of us husbands suffer because you didn't stand up as the king. Vashti got overthrown as the queen. Her house was taken that belongs to the king. Her royal seat was taken that she sat on as the queen. Her position of authority, her authority was gone as the queen. Her voice was gone as the queen. Vashti was a past queen with a past history that looked like a concubine, like every other woman. And the king from this point on, like Micah, when Micah saw David dancing, she told David he was dancing like a common man. And the Bible said that David did not touch her. She did not have any kids. And she went on to become a widow because it was like she was dead to him. He no longer would touch Micah. That's the way it was with Vashti. Vashti wouldn't ever get another husband. She would be a woman alone. So can you imagine how bitter she is? She is bitter. And I mean, she was already enraged. Can you imagine the rage that is in this woman? And a female can be calculative. Hell knows no fury like a woman scorned. This woman was furious because she's just displaced. She's placed like a common woman. You act like a common woman, you're going to get treated like a common woman, and stripped of all of her authority, stripped of her voice. Her voice means nothing. And if her voice means nothing, all of the servant would serve her, and because she need to eat, she need to be cared for. But they stayed away from her because she was like a curse, and they didn't want anything to do with her because they felt like having something to do with Vashti would bring in judgment to them, because she did not have the favor no longer of the king. The king removed his favor. The king removed his grace. And now Vashti is a woman scorned. How many of you know women like that? They done been through hell. They've been used. They've been abused. They've been discombobulated psychologically, physically. They've been mislocated. They never know when they're going to have a roof over their head. They never know when the kids are going to eat. He loses his job. He gets a job. He loses his job. He gets a job. It's a cycle. She don't know where he at. She don't know when he come home. So she is a woman scorn. And there is a spirit, and they call it the Vashti spirit. The Vashti spirit is a woman who has the propensity to be a business owner. She has the propensity to run a kingdom. I mean, her intellect is astounding. She is astute. She's an intellectualist. She's a businesswoman. She's an accountant. She has protocol. She has ethics. She has beauty. She's the right size. She has clout. She has collateral. She has everything, but she's bitter. She's angry. She's mad. She's furious. And so all of this negative energy takes away from her character, takes away from her person, takes away from who she is. And she don't get into her true self because she's locked into a past experience, what has happened in the past. And I want to speak to you women right now who are locked in the past. Yeah, I know it hurt. Yeah, I know he was low down. Yeah, I know it wasn't right. Yeah, I know how the church is. You know, the church mistreats you. I know you were gifted. They didn't acknowledge your gift. Oh, I know all of that. But you're locked into a past experience. You're going to have to learn, if you get in any position of leadership, one thing you're going to have to learn to deal with is treachery, betrayal and pain. You have to learn to deal with it, because you got people who are jealous, who feel they have a right to what you worked for. They have a right to what God has graced you with. They have a right to what you paid the price for. You have a right to sacrifice. I thought about Catherine Kuhlman. They asked her, Catherine, what did it cost you to be where you are? She said, it cost me everything. I had nothing left. She said, I gave God everything. I had to give what he gave me. I kept giving it back to him. She said, because I didn't have a voice. I wasn't pretty. She said, I had him. It cost me everything. There are some positions in God. There are some positions that's going to cost you everything. When you're working for God, when you die to yourself, Isaiah 58, not saying your own words, having your own ways, thinking your own thoughts, when you are fasting, a fast that God has called. And many of you have did that from the beginning of the year. Some of you did it in December going into the new year, and you gave up everything. That's what the enemy wants. He wants what you gave up. He wants you to get it back. He wants you to have it back in your life. He don't want what you've gained. He wants what you've gained to be given up. And what you gave up, he wants to return it back into your life. And so when you are angry, when you are bitter, Naomi was bitter, but she had a roof to synchronize her, because she had to always give back into. When you don't have anything to give back into, and it seems like everything is being taken away from you, you can become bitter. You can become angry. It doesn't matter how powerful you are. It doesn't matter how much vision you have. It doesn't matter how intellectual you are. It doesn't matter how wealthy you are. When you are bitter, it dries out the bones where you are just brittle. Your life is brittle. Everything around you is chaotic, because everything you touch, you poison. You poison with your bitterness. Unforgiveness is terrible. Vashti was not able to forgive the Persian, even though they did the same thing. Have you ever met a person, they doing the same thing they're accusing you of, but they want to kill you and release themselves from doing the very same thing? Vashti father took over kingdoms. He killed children. And historically, they say he would even cut babies out of women's womb. Nebuchadnezzar was a hateful man. We know this because he had a dream, and if they couldn't tell him what he dreamed, not interpret the dream he remembered, to give him the dream back that he didn't remember, he was killing up everybody. Well, if you kill up everybody that runs the kingdom, you will no longer be able to run your kingdom efficiently. And Daniel steps up to the plate. Vashti was a woman with a past that held it like it was her present, and it went to her future. Every day she woke up, her past was there. So her past was with her. It was her like a heartbeat. The past and bitterness and rage, it had the rhythm of her life. Her rhythm was angry. Her rhythm was rage. Her rhythm was bitterness. Her rhythm was to delete everything that hurt her. She took her pain and made it her master. She took her pain and wore it as a crown. She took her pain, it became her eyeglasses, because she saw through the pain. She saw through the past. She didn't even have a future, because she wanted to hurt what was hurting her. She wanted vengeance. She didn't want victory. She wanted vengeance. And anytime you live for vengeance, know that your life is shed by a thread, that you are cutting your days short. You are cutting your success short. You're cutting your business mind short. Creativity can come in your mind. Creativity need a place to breathe. It needs freshness. It needs resilience. It needs momentum. And that's positive energy. In order to operate modularly and to do and accomplish what she needs to accomplish. But Vashti could not. So when the king that changed her life could change her life, could give her the ultimate, she refused to come. And the grace that he had on her, the whole kingdom saw what she did. So she had to be punished, where the whole kingdom saw her punished. Punishment. You have to be careful when you do something publicly, that the judgment may also be publicly. A lot of mercy happened with private issues that stayed private, and God handled private matters privately and get you back synchronized. This woman was vicious. She even brought other people in. She brought these two men in. Do you know what kind of mindset that she convinced them to have in order to go to the assassination of a king and a kingdom? If she had assassinated the king, who now would run the kingdom? Would she? Did Vashti think she would finally get the kingdom? Just like Athaliah, Jezebel's daughter, thought she would get the kingdom? Not so. God had a Mordecai. Mordecai told Esther. Esther reported it, and they assassinated. Instead of them assassinating the king, they got assassinated. And so you have to be careful when you set a trap that your own feet don't fall in those traps. The Bible said, leave place for vengeance. God said, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. God said, if your enemy hungry, feed them. If they thirst, give them water. Heap coals of fire on their head, because they'll think, I am so low down to this person, and this person's so nice to me. Boom. The Holy Spirit is getting ready to move on your behalf. I will spread a table before you in the presence of your enemies. God will make your enemies your footstool. They that rise up against you one way shall flee before you 7 ways. The spirit of confusion will hit them and running, and they don't even know which way to go until their mind goes in one place, their body goes in another, their dreams goes in another, their finances go in another, their family go in another, their wisdom go in another. They just scatter. Nothing is coming together. They're discombobulated. Nothing is coming together to meet the whole, because when you bring in holistic, you are bringing in success. And they are not holistic. They are separated. They're separated from themselves. They're separated within themselves. This is Vashti. So when the king called, she couldn't come because of the condition she's in. When the king called you, what is the king? The king may be your opportunity for business. When it calls, what condition are you in? A fresh idea. When that fresh idea call you, are you ready? When time has given a moment for you to glow, for you to shine, and you got to shine within that moment, are you ready? When you are called into a moment, called into an event, called onto a forum, are you ready? Because the condition you fed, the condition you nurture, the condition you grew, that's the condition that you will present in your moment. When the king's call, it is your moment to stand before opportunity. It is your moment to stand in the realm of greatness. It is your moment to be introduced to your true self. It is your moment for your creativity to be released. It is a moment for your ideas to be released, your goals to be released, your right connection, the right network, the right fortification, the right enhancement. That is the call of a king. Vashti was not ready because she could not release her past. What are you holding on to that you can't release, that you need to release because a moment of greatness has sought you out? It went through under the tunnel, like the Persians went under the tunnel to win and conquer Babylon. Your moment went through a lot to get to you. And you went through a lot for it to get to you. Are you ready for your moment? When the king calls, the condition you're in is how you're going to answer. Will you answer yes to your success? Yes to your new business? Yes to your ministry? Yes to your gifting? Yes to new relationships that are so uncomfortable because you don't know the protocol like David. You have to learn protocol. But it's your moment. It's your time. It's your hour. When the king calls, what condition are you in to come? I am Helen Sattler. I am your destiny helper. Those of you who are listening and you like what you've heard, push the subscribe button and the bell so every time I come on, you can get a notification. We're going to walk through Esther, and we're going to deal with generational gaps, generational hindrances, generational blockages. We're going to get you to the realm of success. The highest you and the greatest you is getting ready to emerge. I would like to introduce you to your true self. God knew what he was doing when he did you. He did it well. I'm Helen Sattler. I am your destiny helper. Have an awesome day.